to describe the things that he wanted. We made the agreement.
What was the agreement?
I would make his body disappear.
Sherlock County 911.
I wanted to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
He's after me. Help me. Help me.
And honoring my word to what I said I would do. That was when I took his, I cut them out, and I took them upstairs and I ate them.
This is 50-year-old Mark Latunsky. He is being interrogated after police found the dead body of 25-year-old Kevin Bacon in his basement. Kevin was chained, hanging from the ceiling with BDSM gear on, and beneath him was a dried-up pool of blood. As the detectives begin to interrogate Mark, they will start to realize that he is unlike any other criminal they have interviewed before. They are dealing with a psychotic, sexual cannibal. Kevin Bacon was born in 1994 and grew up in Swartz Creek. Kevin's jovial, friendly, and charming nature made him a neighborhood favorite. He was studying applied psychology at the University of Michigan, Flint, but his true calling laid in the arts of hairstyling. Between classes, he was working as a hairstylist at a salon called Uniquely You. All had been going great until Christmas Day of 2019, when Kevin was reported missing by his parents after he didn't attend the family's traditional Christmas brunch. The Bacons had last seen Kevin on Christmas Eve when he came over after work at the salon to make his sister and mom's hair up for Christmas. Kevin initially wanted to stay over for the Christmas Eve dinner, but when he found out that a family member he didn't like was going to be there, he told them he wouldn't be staying. On December 27th, 3 days after Kevin went missing, Michigan State Police pinged his phone, and it led them to a Family Dollar shop. There they recovered Kevin's car, which contained his wallet, phone, and the clothes he was last seen wearing. While searching Kevin's phone, his chats from a dating app stood out. He was planning to meet a guy called Olikos Kai Lucas. The investigators were then able to trace Lucas's address, and while running a check, the police discovered that his real name was Mark Latunsky. The guy in question, Mark David Latunsky, was born in 1969. He attended Central Michigan University and graduated with a master's in chemistry from Iowa State University, after which he was working as a chemist. In 2001, Mark got married to Emily. They had 4 kids together. Latunsky's marriage with Emily started to crumble in 2010 when he was diagnosed with a long list of mental health disorders. He was diagnosed with chronic major depression with psychotic features, adjustment disorder with depression, anxiety with paranoid schizophrenia, and borderline personality traits. In 2014, Latunsky went to the police station to report a murder, stating that he, Mark Latunsky, had killed himself, another quite obvious sign of insanity. Latunsky got remarried in 2016 to Jamie Arnold. However, Jamie then filed for divorce, saying that he was unable to get Latunsky to take his medicines and also couldn't keep up with Latunsky's violent lifestyle and BDSM fantasies.
For him to say he is somebody else, he had this whole theory that his family wasn't his family, that he was not a Latunsky, that he was, I don't know, somebody else.
Jamie, do you think that it's possible that Mark has murdered before?
Given the evidence at hand, I think it could very well be possible.
It appeared that 50-year-old Latunsky participated in several online sex forums as a male escort, meeting up with men and offering them a good time in exchange for money. In October of 2019, just 3 months before Kevin Bacon went missing, a man made a distress call to 911, claiming that he had woken up in Mark Latunsky's basement and managed to escape after using a knife to set himself free.
And I was supposed to be meeting them at the bus station. I met this guy. I'm by. He was cute. He hit on me. I don't know. We went out to the car. We talked. We went to the store. Had a soda. I woke up in the basement. Okay. He obviously drugged me. I never ever had anything like this happen. I don't know whether he drugged me. I don't know. I woke up in the basement, okay? Chained in the basement with a leather thing around my ankle, and I cut it with the butcher knife that I have in my freaking hand, excuse my French. I just want to get out of here, and I want to go home. I don't even care about the legal case I was here for. I'm sorry, I can't help them. I want to go home.
Okay.
I don't want an incident report. I just really need a ride. Just get out of here, please.
Unfortunately, this man never pressed charges, and he ended up reconciling with Latunsky, after which they spent a couple more nights together. 6 weeks later, in November of 2019, a 29-year-old man was seen running out of Mark's house with his face bleeding.
Sherlock County 911.
I want to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm trying to escape from some guy who had me chained up in his basement. He's after me.
Hey, I need you to go to somewhere safe. If you can run up to somebody's house. Where are you at right now? Are you able to get away?
Help me. Help me.
6-2, he's running towards the house. Guy's trying to come after him. I'm trying to get further. Okay, I need an address where you're at. I'm trying to get it.
910W.
910?
Yeah.
I think he's in front of 910 West Tyrell.
I hear a pounding at my door at 4 in the afternoon, and I jump up. My dogs are barking like you probably hear, and this kid has his face covered with a rag and a phone to his ear, and he's like, help me, he's after me, just scared to death out of his mind. A gentleman pulls up in my driveway in a silver SUV, and he gets out, and he's wearing the same getup this guy's wearing, which is a leather skirt and a couple of belts crossing her body, no shoes on, no shirt on. This kid grabs my arm and clutches behind me. Keep him away from me, keep him away from me.
The young man ran to the house of Latunsky's neighbors for safety. Shockingly, Latunsky successfully convinced everyone that he was merely pursuing the person for running off with his $300 leather kilt. After multiple issues resulting from his mental health, Mark received 5 separate orders from the court to undergo mental health assessments and therapy. But unfortunately, he never followed through. On the 28th of December, police drove to Mark Latunsky's house to ask him some questions. He began the encounter with lying to the police about his name, before finally admitting his real name was Mark Latunsky. The police informed him that they were investigating Kevin Bacon's disappearance and had a warrant to search his house. Mark was welcoming, and one of the policemen even complimented his house's Christmas decorations. They had been searching for quite a while when they came across a room in the basement. It had a sliding barn door that was only locked from the outside. What they encountered was horrible, and the room looked like a slaughterhouse. Kevin Bacon's body was found naked, dangling by his feet from the basement ceiling. Beneath the body was a dried-up puddle of blood, indicating that he had been there for some time. Immediately, Mark was arrested and taken into custody.
Central, this is most likely a K. We're going to treat this homicide.
Mark Latunsky was interrogated on December 28th. The detectives soon learn how morbid and psychotic Mark's fantasies actually are. But for now, they have no idea how evil the man sitting across from them actually is.
Is Mark David Latunsky. Okay. That is not my legal name.
Oh, it isn't?
No. That is a stolen identity. Mark David Latunsky was last, or at least the last record that I have of Mark David Latunsky was 1972. He was born in 1969. He has black hair. He has brown eyes. And he was born a cripple. As all of the grand cripples. So, what happened to Mark David Latunsky? I have no idea. Okay. However, all of the people that I grew up with knew that I'm not Mark David Latunsky, and they just failed to tell me. My mother had a funeral in 1981.
Okay, so she died in 1981. Sorry to hear that. Okay. So what is the name that you prefer, that you use?
Now, well, here, as long as you're filling, my father
What's his date of birth?
I have no idea.
Where does he live?
He passed away in, I believe, 2002. He lived somewhere in Owasso, as I recall.
Okay.
Now, I was raised by my sister. However, when I did my ancestry DNA, and I'm not a Lutunsky, so I did the digging, and when I confronted the people that I was raised with, they said, oh, now you know. I said, okay, so who's Mark Lutunsky? Who knows? At least as far as I know. I know he was born. I have a birth certificate. But the dates on that birth certificate span 1969 to 1972. So I was born no earlier than 1969 and no later than 1972 when two cousins from my family, genetic family, signed off on those state of Michigan documents. I don't know if that document is a death certificate for Mark Lutunsky or not. But I've been using that name to go to school, get an education, hold a job, but it's not me, and everyone in this county knows it. Because when my mother died, that's when it became public knowledge to everyone except for me.
What is the name that you prefer to be called?
Well, when I started to realize that that was a stolen identity, one, I stopped voting. Two, I'd been trying to get rid of it for a long time because that name is a name of a bunch of people that I have absolutely no relationship to. So the name that I go by is Olikos.
How do you spell
Olykos.
it? Okay.
Here, Lutunsky exhibits clear symptoms of schizophrenia, including hallucinations, such as hearing voices or seeing non-existent individuals. In an interview, Lutunsky's ex-wife revealed that his mental health struggles surfaced following his father's stroke, which deeply affected him. Since then, Lutunsky has harbored the belief that he is actually his mother's brother, alleging that his family concealed his true identity to withhold his inheritance from him.
So in the spare time you do financial stuff?
Well, I work on financial stuff. I have a banker. He's my New York investor that I work with. I have a second one who's here in Michigan. And then in my spare time, I'm doing construction. But because I was looking for honest work, I started trying to pick up odd jobs where I would do something. Put up someone's drywall. No go. And so finally, using the name Vilkas, I put an ad on RentMan, and man, if I can give a massage and somebody's going to pay me, that's more honest money than what I was doing at American Chemical. What they were doing was downright discussing things that nobody should do. And I look at them, if a man's going to pay me to rub him down, fine.
So how long have you been doing that?
Probably I started it about April of this year.
So like massages?
Just massages. It's like, you know what? I'll spend time with you. Man can't guarantee sex. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, hey, guess what? I can't sell that because that's not the way the world works. But you want to spend your time with me? Boom. Here's your price. And and I'll have a good time with it, and
How much?
it will fun.
So when you say here's your price, that's how much you would charge?
Yeah, $200 an hour, $1,500 a day. And if you look at it and you say, you know, you want to dicker a deal on it, guess what? I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm doing it for honest money. Pulling my own money out of a trust fund is not honest money.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I mean, that's stupid.
Okay.
The fact is that my mother passed away on the very day that I would have come of age by our culture, and I would have had to have been told that she was my mother, and that I wasn't just, gee, this little kid. I was her son, and had this trust fund. Now I talk to people and I say, what are the chances that the very person who held the trust in guardianship, who was required to tell me, passes away on the very day that she would have had to have done that?
So when you said come of age, what did you mean come of age?
It was my 12th birthday.
And you said come of age for your culture. So I don't understand.
I'm Norwegian.
Okay, so you're Norwegian.
I'm Norwegian.
So what is, explain to me then what coming of age for Norwegian means, because I don't know.
4 multi-generational trust funds that would have been set up, who knows when. Things that I don't control the conditions of, any more than my mother controlled the conditions of them, which is why the people in New York, the families in New York that I've been in touch with here and there, all know more details than I do because they know much more. All I know is that I'm sitting here as the only living Thomas of Wales that I've been able to find.
Contradicting his earlier claim of hailing from Norway, Latunsky now presents a conflicting narrative. According to Latunsky's attorney, Doug Corwin, Mark genuinely believes himself to be Edgar Thomas Hill, a member of a royal family known as the Thomas clan in Wales.
He believes he's named someone else. He believes he is from a royal family out of Wales, the Thomas clan. And just the nature of the crime itself, you've got to send him for this evaluation.
And
so you're a Thomas of Wales?
I am a Thomas of Wales, and I reached out to the people in Great Britain to find out if there are any more.
Okay.
Because as I have looked amongst my blood relatives, I don't think there are any other Thomas of Wales of the Thomas of Wales clan left except for me.
Okay.
So to what extent that makes one iota of difference to why we're talking, I don't know. It's not like I have a whole bunch of people that I can go up to and say, okay, beyond what these people here in Shiawassee know, what gives? Some of them will give me some details, and some people just clam up. But at this point, you look at it and you say, come on, cat's out of the bag. And that's when the people that I grew up with said, okay, fine, you know, that's it. That's all you're going to tell me? Yeah, that's all we're going to tell you. See ya. Like, you know what? If you're saying see ya, so am I. Why am I Mark David Latunsky? I'm not. And you knew it, and I knew it. But having that stolen identity kept me alive when all of the rest of my family is not. And that is what the New York banker finally said, bingo. So, if that's what my mother had to do to keep me alive, she was a very smart woman, because it didn't keep her alive. And
what sites did you meet him on?
gosh, I would have. I think that one was Grinder.
Okay.
But no matter. We chatted for a while. He described the things that he wanted. I did what I could to bring those things about. And after we sat and made an agreement about what was going to happen, we made the agreement, and he was supposed to disappear, be gone. He had but you know as well as I do that in our society, although we say, a man can just go, does our society really allow that? No. And what it leaves behind is all kinds of I'm going to say, things for his family that a man doesn't want to leave. Now, the things that I set up for him and plan to do for him in that regard would do something for his family that would make it easier. But that agreement between him and I really shouldn't have anything to do with anything but him or I.
So what was the agreement?
In total, one, that
Latunsky informs the interrogators that Kevin Bacon told him he was depressed and struggling with suicidal thoughts.
And he looked at it. I mean, we laid together for a while. He asked me to. I did.
I'm sorry, asked you to do what? Just lay with them?
Just lay with them. Just lay with them and hold them. And finally, he says, you know what? I'm ready. And at that point, that was it. Now, the going away part and the portions for his family, knowing that I have, and as I explained to him, I know that there are leases and properties that are attached to my estate. And I said, you know what? Because I fully expected, because we've talked through all of the options. I said, look, because of who I am and who I've been, in one way or another, the people who control the trust find out the best way to either A, get me out of the way, B, keep me safe, or C, protect me in some way. Why or how? Sometimes I know and sometimes I don't know.
So how does the trust have to do with the man in the basement?
Well,
or doesn't it?
It does. It does. Because with that, there were things that I was going to do for his family. See, our portion of the trust, or at least what I'm beginning to see lay out, just as my home is the original Garrison home that sits along the I-69 corridor, the rest of the portions of the key homes along the north side of I-69 are also all owned by my family.
According to the Michigan State Police, Lutunsky and Bacon engaged in several days of conversation before agreeing to meet. Bacon expressed an interest in participating in BDSM activities, a preference that Lutunsky shared. Consequently, they arranged a meet-up at Swartz Creek. Prior to their meeting, Bacon explicitly asked Lutunsky to keep him safe after their sexual relations, to which Lutunsky not only provided assurance, but also promised to safely drive Bacon back home.
I don't want to have the details on any record. It doesn't need to be there. What he wants is what he wants is what he wants. Sure. But at that point, I said, you know what? I'm not going to put these on you. I says, take what you have, take it off, put it in this bag. And he says, you know what? Can I text a friend and say, you know what? I'm just gonna be out, and you know, whatever we blabbered about. And I say blabbered just because I said, you know what? You say whatever you want to say. And he says, okay, now that I've said it, I'm going to turn my phone off. Okay.
That was all the parking lot?
That was all still in the parking lot.
Do you know what store?
No, it was just a parking lot there on Grand River or not Grand River, Miller Road in Swartz Creek. Okay. And I said, if you're ready, I said, if you're doing this, then you put the stuff on. And then, so I sat in the front while he did all of that.
So you're in the front of your vehicle?
I was in the front of my vehicle.
What kind of vehicle do you have?
It's a van. It's a Hyundai Santa Fe, gray.
All right.
So I sat in the front, and he went in the back. He got all ready. And I said, look, you know, this way you're leaving everything behind, and it's like, done. And at that point he says, okay, I'm ready. I went around and I shut the trunk, and then I put, you know, he gave me the key. So that I could lock the car. I put his bag in the back. I locked the car.
You locked his vehicle?
I locked his vehicle.
So his stuff is in his vehicle?
His stuff was in his vehicle.
And then does he stay in the back of your van?
And he stayed in the back of my van.
Okay, and then you leave the parking lot.
And then I left the parking lot.
Okay.
And then we went back to the house.
Do you know what you did with the keys for the car?
The keys were, see, he had the keys at first. He gave them to me. I don't know.
Good. That's just a minor detail. I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Lutunsky explained that Bacon had persuaded him to assist in his suicide, and they mutually concluded that a swift method would be by stabbing Bacon in the spinal cord. However, it is worth noting that a stab to the spinal cord is a painful and slow way to die, immediately contradicting the opinion of mercy killing, which is meant to be painless.
I'm on the back side because he's laying on the floor, and it would be across the room. And he had his head facing the east wall. And so when I went in, you know, when you obviously have on the picture there's the spray that went to the left, doing what I needed to do to complete what I told him I would do. Turn him into something that would produce life. And that's what I was in the process of doing.
Where's the knife now?
It is upstairs in because I cleaned it off. And it is upstairs in the dresser drawer. I think on the right-hand side, top.
Is it a bedroom, someone's bedroom, or your bedroom?
Yeah.
So it's a guest bedroom?
No. I put it up in my bedroom.
Oh, your bedroom.
Just because, I had, again, knowing at least the bits and pieces of the conversations that we've had over periods of time,
what does the knife look like?
What's it look like?
Yeah, is it like a kitchen knife? Is it, you know what I'm saying?
No, it's just a hunter's knife.
It's a hunter's knife. What color is it?
It has a black blade. I actually, it has a black and gray handle.
Okay.
Is it
a fixed blade?
Fixed.
So it doesn't move. It's not mechanical.
No.
I'm picturing something like, you remember the movie Rambo? You ever see Rambo? Or it's about that big with a handle and a big blade.
The blade is only about that long.
Oh, okay.
Is it serrated or smooth?
Smooth. It was a smooth blade.
Mark Lutunsky went on to explain that Bacon had expressed a desire for his bones to be used as fertilizer for plants, particularly tulips, and then gifted to his family. Lutunsky also argued that the entire plan, including the assisted suicide, had been prearranged and mutually agreed upon long before their physical meeting. Furthermore, Lutunsky claimed that it was Kevin who came up with the idea of stripping naked and leaving his clothes and belongings in the car.
I need to make sure that this is quick and not run out.
Okay.
And so it was then that it's like, okay, let's get this so that he's
quicker.
I was trying to speed it up at that point because he was already unconscious.
Okay.
But I could tell, because, you could tell that he was, in any case, it was the realization of this wasn't enough, and that was when, I hoisted and got all of that set up and had to apply.
Lutunsky explains that after stabbing Bacon in the back, he wanted to speed up the process. So he decided to slit his throat and hang him by his feet from the ceiling so that the blood could run out quickly. Now, while Lutunsky claimed that this was to speed up the process, it is widely known that animals slaughtered for consumption undergo a similar processing method.
Do you remember what day that was? Because you said that you met initially on the 24th.
24th.
So when did this part all take place?
It was...
Was it the same night or the next day? Or so Christmas was Wednesday.
The
25th was on Wednesday.
It would have been it was during that evening. And then after he was, and I don't know, it's just flat out fact, is that after he was dead, and it was then that I started to do what I told him I was going to do. I was going to eat part of him. And I did. It was the new moon. And honoring my word to what I said I would do. I look at it and I say, if that's...
Was that his wishes? Is that the main reason why you did it?
It was the discussion, like wherever you know, whatever is consumable is consumable. So I will eat you. Okay. Okay.
So this happened sometime the night of the 24th into the 20th.
It was the night of the 24th into the 25th. I stayed with them for quite a while. I mean, that was very important. I said, you will not die alone. I said, I won't.
You know, and that, to me, as an outsider looking in, that shows me the type of person you are.
I said, I won't do that.
Absolutely.
I said,
you're a man of your word.
Regardless of what it is, I won't let you die alone.
Yeah.
And
that's very stand-up of you. I mean, not a lot of people would do that.
The interrogator minimizes the offense, downplays its seriousness, and gives Lutunsky the impression that what he did was morally acceptable. We also observe that the interrogators are letting Lutunsky provide the majority of the information. Instead of asking him random questions, they are asking him to clarify information. This is another method used to maintain control over the interrogation process without being accused of forcing a confession.
How did you do that? Did you cook them? Did you... where did you do that? I mean...
on the kitchen stove.
Like with a frying pan?
It was the griddle. I mean, I eat Rocky Mountain oysters anyway.
Sure.
I have a carton of them that I had bought. And so it's really very simple. You slice them thin, you saute them with some Worcestershire sauce, and once they're done, you just eat them. You know, the other portions were going to be a jerky and the like. I mean, I didn't know that at the time, and so afterwards, and in fact, I mean, yesterday, maybe it was, well, it depends on what day it is now.
It is now Saturday morning.
But I just ordered a dehydrator so that, you know, so that, you know, I mean, I said not knowing, just so that I could continue to process the way and do what he wanted me to do.
So you would have taken more of his body and put it in the dehydrator?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And where's the dehydrator now?
It's on order. It'll order it until after we talked and he said that that's what he wanted. And so it's like, well, and that's when I started really looking for one to say, you know what, if this is what he wants, then this is what he wants. It's not uncommon.
Did you guys, I might have missed the conversation when I stepped out.
I was covered in you know, a little, not covered, but it's like I had some on me, and I looked at it, and you know, it's like I had done what I needed to do, and I could wash this off. Nope, I'm not going to. And at that point, you know, I went upstairs and I crawled into bed, and I just left it.
Did you ever wash those sheets then after you laid in the blood on it?
No. And when I got up the next morning, you know, because I rested, you know, just lightly, I got up and it was middle of the afternoon when I was supposed to go over and get the other guy on the 25th. And I looked at it and I went, you know what? I'm not. And I left it right on. And I put on what clothing I had. And I went, I'm not going to wash him off.
Where did you put the clothing that you have him on you?
I have no idea. You know, I mean...
You never washed it?
No.
Do you remember what you were wearing?
When we were having our finish dance? Nothing. What was I wearing?
You said you had blood. Did you have blood on your clothes or just your body? Naked body?
My body.
Just your naked body?
Yes. So,
at the time and then the time that you assisted him in passing, Did you have clothes on at that time? Or were you
No.
naked? Okay.
I was naked.
Okay.
I had no.
So there would be blood on the sheets, though, where you couldn't lay down if it came off.
It would be dried. It would be whatever sloughed off. And I looked at it, and again, maybe my thinking of saying, you know what, I'm not going to wash this off. And even when I was talking to someone, I don't feel that I did anything wrong.
Did you tell anybody else about this, other than us?
I did, because part of my culture is that if you have an honorable death, then you have to tell somebody before you pass 3 houses. And so I looked at it, and we've even talked about this, you know, because he gave me the name.
You and what'd you call him?
I actually never used his name. It was only just before and he looked at it, you know, because he says, wow, you really planned a lot of this. I said, I planned nothing. I said, I planned absolutely nothing. I said, okay, let's say that the police have a problem with it. I said, if the police have a problem with it, then what? They throw me in jail. Or they try to. I said, I guess I'll just have to deal with that.
It sounds honorable. It sounds honorable.
Well, but in order to make it honorable in my culture, I did have to tell someone. And even when I talked to him, he says, just call me Kevin Bacon. And I went, okay. I said, if I say that I killed Kevin Bacon, he says, no one's gonna believe you. I said, I could tell anybody, and no one would believe me because of my name. I actually texted before I ever did anything, I went up and I texted a friend who was, and I'm going to say, what's the correct word? Understanding of the situation, because he's a judge advocate in New York, and I sent him a text and I said, you know what, I did this. I says, and I love him. He's my hero. And
I'm sorry, who's your hero?
I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero. And that's.
And who did you send that text to?
I sent that to who was in New York. He also, I said, encounters different people with all kinds of different needs. And like I said, at that point, I just texted him and I said, okay, I don't need to do anything else. Sure. I was able to tell someone before I even left the house. And at that point, I went, I'm done. You know what? I did it. I complied, and then I went to sleep and went off to Christmas, and that was when I talked and it's like, and it was really strange because working in the healthcare, was working in nursing homes, and he says, he was talking about how undignified, how horrible sometimes we let people die in that way.
Given the way Latunsky expresses himself, it is evident that he perceives his actions in killing Bacon as justified. Under the U.S. Criminal Code, a person may be deemed legally insane if they suffered from a mental disorder at the time of the offense. In such cases, when charged, the verdict could potentially be not guilty by reason of insanity, acknowledging that they may not have had the capacity to comprehend the wrongfulness of their actions due to the mental disorder.
Or I actually don't even know his last name. I actually got a text from him because he thanked me for the discussion that we had, and he wanted to, just come down and spend some time with me. But for a completely different reason. Because we didn't talk about this. I put it completely out of my mind as far as saying, you know what, it's done, and now I'm just going to do the things that I agreed to do to the best of my ability. And I hope that I'm able to do that instead of opening up something that he never wanted opened. And so
So I don't know if you covered it with Josh. When did you end his suffering? Was he or was he on the ground when you did?
He was on the ground.
Okay.
Because he was still in this position, and what I did was I had to move his head in that because at that point I would.
So did you lean over him?
I leaned over.
Can you demonstrate? Pretend his head's against that wall. What did you do? Okay, well, tell me what you did.
I saw that it was going longer, and I took his head and I moved it to the side and this way. So it was as much as I could in order to, whatever it was, it at least initiated another gash that was there wasn't the spray like there was the first time. So it was at least more effective.
So when you say the spray the first time, what do you mean?
That was when
So the spray on the wall is what you think, what you're referring to as the first time.
That was the first one.
And then when you did this,
the second one, it was just, it's like, I need to end this as quickly as I can, and that was after that I could tell that he was unconscious.
Did you have to put the rope on attaching the ceiling, or was the rope already there?
No, I was running the rope through the eye hook.
Yeah, okay.
Because the eye hook was used for, it's that's for other suspension. I had a guy hanging by his balls. That's, when you do things like that, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, not really.
Okay, well, and in any case, that's
more fetish stuff, correct?
Okay,
so I'm aware that there are fetishes, and fetishes can be a whole bunch of things.
It can be all kinds of things.
Okay.
But, the eye hook was there, and so I was running the ropes through, as
So you just put those ropes up for, we'll call him Kevin. So you just put the ropes up for Kevin Bacon, or had they been there for a couple of weeks before Kevin Bacon?
No, that they had never, those ropes had, no, those were all done that night. And in fact, before he got there, that rope, we tailored it for some of the stuff that we were doing. Because the ends were fraying, and because I don't like the weight of things, I had just taken and I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before or whenever it was, I had recut some of the ends and done that and taken them upstairs, put them on the stove, and so you'll see with the ropes that they're seared on the ends so that they don't fray because they're
talking ropes in the basement though.
The ropes that are in the basement, and then because I was trying to readjust and get them up so that I could get some of the sand out to get it out to the flower bed, is that the ropes as you saw them today, all of that, because I've been working with it for the past couple of days to, I mean, whenever I can to try to get everything. I was just trying to get everything right so that I could, just make it happen. How familiar are you with the leather fetish community? He's been my alpha's mate for
Probably more than I am, but
for the past 5 years. But when he started to exhibit characteristics of an alpha, and that was another reason why he got his own apartment. You don't put two alphas in the same building.
So was your partner until he showed too much dominance for your liking?
And at that point, he got a boy of his own, and I helped him do that. But
what do you mean, got a boy?
Well, he has a man who helps him out, not a partner.
Okay, I don't want to say it wrong. That's why I'm asking questions. That's why I'm asking questions.
We follow the pack dynamics, and so when we were together, it was alpha's mate, and then anyone else was either a beta, submissive, or whatnot. We did not have an omega. With him exhibiting, and he's older than I am, with him exhibiting dominant characteristics to the point that he was willing to say no. It's like, no, that doesn't fly. You see how that works?
I play that with my dog.
You play that?
With my dog.
You play that.
I'm the alpha dog in this house. You're going to do what I say.
You're going to do what I say.
Not sexually, but as an alpha dog. You know what I'm saying? I hear you.
So and then it was, and I'll tell you, it came from GMC. Mm-hmm. In all of my stupidity, last January, I decided to get him some of that. He would have.
It was your own fault.
It was my own fault. I did it myself. It was my own fault. I got him some, and he went on it for, I think it was about 2 months. Maybe even it was a month. And one day I can't even be in the same bed with you. And I looked at what was going on. We charted our sexual history. I just look at this. It's a straight line down. I said, the second you went on that, it went from flat to this, and here we are today. I said, you've got to get off of that. He went off of it, and what happened? We went right back up. It was post-mortem, and it was just a matter of saying, look.
And you said you put Worcestershire on it?
I put the Liam Perrin's Worcestershire sauce on it. Okay. And it's just, the griddle is right there, and because that's how I normally eat them. I mean, I had a friend from Ohio that came up, and I tried some of the recipes with Rocky Mountain oysters, and they just produced so much volume that I found that just thin slicing them with Liam Perrin's was best. And I went, well, if it works for the standard Rocky Mountain oysters, it should work for these. And
so that leads me to a question. And again, I appreciate your honesty. I can't make it up.
I'm looking at it, I'm saying, it is what it is.
And again, that proves to me the type of person you are. The honesty and the.
Like I said, it's not a matter of, some people would say, okay. And I think some people would say, not okay. But
so has this ever happened before?
No.
You've never assisted anybody with these type of wishes, or
no, I haven't.
Or eaten anybody else's or any other part of the body?
No. And I told him that as well. I've never done this.
Well,
I've never done it.
What you just got done saying, though, was that that's how you normally eat them.
No. I have a carton of Rocky Mountain oysters that I purchased of standard, I bought them from Marin Duff meat.
Rocky
Mountain oysters are just
oysters, yeah.
yeah. And so that's how, I had learned to just take the Rocky Mountain oysters, then slice them, put them onto the griddle, put some Worcestershire sauce on them, and I figured if it works for those, it should work for these.
In addition to the dehydrator Latunsky purchased to make Kevin's muscles into beef jerky, he mentioned that on the occasion of the full moon, he regularly ate Rocky Mountain oysters, a dish made of bull nuts. But on that particular day, he decided to make use of Kevin's testicles.
Okay. So, and I'm going to be really direct with you because you've been honest with us, and Lucas, I appreciate that. I have a feeling this probably wasn't the first person where you helped them end their life. And maybe I'm wrong, but and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm trying to sit back and visualize how this all played out. And with your demeanor, you're so calm. And I'm just wondering, is this really the only person that that this has happened with?
You're completely wrong.
Okay.
However, and I'm going to put a however in there. As we started the conversation, exactly where is Mark Latunsky? Now, that is something that I've become very much a realist about it. Things that I remember from my childhood. I remember going out into a field with Lawrence Dean and with a shovel burying something. When I was this big, in the location that has now been converted into the cemetery that contains the cemetery plot for Mark Latunsky. Dealing with that reality in a very mature way. Did I bury this, whatever was left of it, at that point? I don't know.
How old do you think you were?
Well, the last record of Mark Latunsky was 1972.
Yeah, I'm saying the person I'm looking at now. How old were you as a physical person?
How old was I when that happened? I was maybe 5, 6.
And how? Okay. So at the property that you're at now, at the house right now, have you buried anything on the property?
Have I buried anything on the property?
Let me give you another piece of paper.
Okay. If the house is here, okay, my dog Lad is buried here.
Okay, so you buried a dog.
I buried the dog.
Respectfully. What else have you buried?
I have buried a horse. And actually, I didn't bury the horse. When the horse drank the water out of the barn, it went crazy and dropped dead. And so the neighbor came over and he buried that horse right there.
Can you write horse?
Horse.
And then dog?
Dog.
Have you buried anything else? Because I'm calling, I'm going to have a cadaver dog go out and just do a property sweep, just so we cover our bases.
You can cover your bases. There are, to my knowledge, there is absolutely nothing there buried.
Okay. Have you taken the life of anybody else? I'm speaking
to my knowledge, no.
Okay. What do you mean to your knowledge?
I have not taken anybody. I'm telling you, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
Because you did it so neat and clean, Did you clean up that room at all after he was passed and after you had hung him by his feet? Did you do a lot of cleaning down there?
No.
You can flip over because this is the scene.
I took the sand where the blood was there, and I shoveled out one bucket that had bloody sand, and I put it on the hyacinths and actually the hole had been dug when I was planting the hyacinths because I ran out of hyacinths in the fall. And so the rest of the hole was already there, but there was one hyacinth that was left exposed. And I just took that one bucket of sand and I put it right there.
Just put sand with
sand.
And that is
from basement. And it's right there. And it's right there. I mean, and that has the blood on it. And that has the blood on it. So the cadaver dog will find that sand right there.
Okay.
If it doesn't, the cadaver dog is broken.
Okay.
I mean, it's just...
I understand what you're saying. So
it's that simple. There's no way that dog won't be able to smell that.
Despite Latunsky displaying signs of mental illness, his strategic and calculated responses to questions suggest otherwise. Many people believe that he might have been feigning mental illness as part of his defense strategy for this case.
So when you're driving him from that parking lot to your house,
I actually had him sit on a blanket and then I said, look, if we're driving down the road and someone looks in,
right.
That's what I'm
trying to get at.
So I had put two blankets into the back of the van for him, so that he could, and then I turned on the heat so that it was, plenty warm.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just looked at it and I went, here, this way. I says, look, and as we were looking at this different stuff, I said, if you decide to go with I said, then it has to be removal. I said, I can see it now. We get stopped by the cop. The cop looks in the back. He sees you all tied up. And this is one thing I actually said to him. I said, they stop us, and he says, what's that? And I says, don't worry. It's okay. It's consensual. And then the cop is going to undo you, and he's going to say, is this consensual? And you're going to say, yes. I says, if you don't say yes, then you better hope that I never get out of prison. It's like I laughed about it, but that's all serious because people will say yes, and then later it's like, well, no, or I meant it to be no, or and you really have to be very careful of when a person is saying no and when they're really saying no.
Sure.
And
when more or less a role playing versus out of that fetish world, they're saying, no, I've had enough. Legitimately. I need you to stop. I need to go back home and show. So when he's riding and you're driving, he basically, essentially he's got nothing covering his legs, nothing covering his shirt.
He is.
Other than blankets.
He's and that was just part of.
When Mark Latunsky argued that he had never attempted to murder anyone before, the interrogator countered by bringing up the incident that occurred in November involving the 29-year-old man.
And then all of a sudden, I hear the door open, and I went, well, that's kind of weird. And I go to the door and I look out. I'm not wearing anything. And I look out the door. And he's just walking across the yard. I mean, he wasn't
in that leather.
He had on my $300 leather kilt, and he's walking across the yard. Now, we'd already talked. He knew which neighbor he could go to who doesn't care for me at all. He walked past that house. He walked past the next house. And it's like, I look at him, and then he books it 2.5, 3 houses down and decides to start climbing fences. I'm like, going, you're stupid. What's going on here? And it's like, but then it was like, and my personal opinion is that he found the nicest piece of leatherware. He shimmied into it, and he was going to walk with it. And if he got out of sight where I didn't know where he was, boom, he could call somebody and say, look, and then go home with it. I actually had to go, I want my kilt back. And it's like, oh, that's your kilt? Yeah, I want my kilt back. Here are his clothes sitting in a dang pile right in front of the door.
Okay.
So I look at it and I'm not past that myself, because when I was younger, you know, and it's like, I mean, I did it myself with little articles, and it's like, well, gee, I don't have this, you know, this porn video, so it's like, you know, into the bag it went, and it's like, so I always have to be careful of that, because when you've got items of fetish nature that are kind of expensive, for something to just disappear like that, no. That is for flogging usually.
Okay.
So you know, I mean, it was you know the purpose of flogging, right?
Don't know the purpose of it, but
okay. Well, what it does is it activates the blood vessels in the skin, so that the sensations of touch and feel are heightened because the nerves are activated.
Yes.
So the you know, like that. So it was through an entire, you know, each of the different movements that went through.
Another question that came to mind. Actually, the guy, one of our partners that's out there at the house, had asked. In the kitchen on the stove, there's a couple different pans. There's one that's got some vegetables like potatoes and stuff already in it.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that I think might be clean or doesn't have anything in it. Do you remember which pan you would have used to?
I think that's the griddle. The flat one.
Because I don't remember, because I haven't been out there. Is one more rounded and one's flat?
Well,
I distinguish between the two.
I use cast iron.
Okay.
Okay. And, you know, so the, I mean,
you don't remember which one?
I mean, it was whatever, I don't know. I mean, I put it onto a flat surface.
Okay.
That was it. I put it on a flat surface. So, you know, I mean, like I said, whether you are, and even the way you're asking that question, that's like, I look at it and I say, maybe you're being square with me. Maybe you look at it and you say, you know what, this is all amping up. Maybe you're just playing me.
I'm not
I don't know.
I'm just trying to get. We're just trying to
because we're here and it's there, and we're trying to get a mental picture. And you listen, you've been completely honest with us, and we appreciate that. And I'm a completely honest person with you. I'm not blowing any smoke, nothing. What if no one had shown up at the house? And maybe you already told us in that story. Remember, what were you going to do with his body?
His internals were going to go out back, and I was going to put the peach pits in them, and then the rest of them I have the chestnut that are in the refrigerator, and I had been meaning to plant them before, but really never had anything that, to grow them with. I was going to drop the chestnuts into a portion of them. There's a pile of mulch out back. I was just going to cover them with mulch.
You're going to cover the bones with mulch?
No, not the bones. I was just going to take the internal gut portions and get rid of it, so that they were each growing things. The muscle portion was going to go into the dehydrator that I purchased after, yesterday, or it's going to be delivered on Monday, because that was, that came out of the discussion. So I didn't have anything, planned for it at that point. And then I was just going to, crush up the bones into bone meal, and then see if,
Seasoning?
What?
Seasoning, is that what you said?
No, grind them up into bone meal, and take the bone meal and pair them with tulip bulbs, and figure out some way to, just have them appear somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
in memory or
just however it worked. If it's a matter of getting it to happen, so that.
And putting the muscle from the body into the dehydrator.
Into the dehydrator.
Would have to eat like jerky.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Jerky it up, and that's I know a lot of people don't understand that, but it's like I look at it and
we're open to a lot of things.
And I know it is what it is. It's a matter of just making it happen. So
we're going to take a quick break and we'll get right back with you.
You need a bottle of water in?
I love water.
We're about done.
And then am I going to be able to go back home and take care of the dog, or do you know, or what?
I don't know yet. We'll cross that bridge real quickly here, though.
Okay.
I'm not going to leave you in the dark all day.
Okay, great. I'm tired and I want to get some sleep, and today's a gym day.
I don't like missing gym days.
So.
Anyway, give me a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
According to a study published by PubMed Center, individuals with schizophrenia are reported to be 4 to 6 times more likely to commit a violent crime compared to their counterparts in the general population who are in good health. In Western countries, approximately 6% of homicide perpetrators within the population are identified as schizophrenic. After the interrogation, Lutunsky's DNA was taken and he returned back to his cell. Lutunsky's defense made a plea for insanity, which was supported by a substantial amount of evidence, including medical records, court documents, and various accounts and testimonies. Initially, the plea was accepted. However, 9 months later, a judge overruled the insanity plea. As a result, Lutunsky underwent a 15-month rehabilitation process to restore his mental stability, preparing him to stand trial. Against his attorney's wishes, in September of 2022, 2 years and 6 months after Bacon's murder in Corunna, Michigan, Lutunsky pleaded guilty to the charges of murder and mutilation in the case of Kevin Bacon.
Lutunsky, on December 24th, 2019, were you at 703 West Terrell in Morris, Michigan?
Yes, I was.
To your knowledge, is that in Shiawassee County?
Yes, it is.
On that date, were you with Kevin Bacon?
Yes, I was.
Did you use a knife to stab Mr. Bacon?
Yes, I did.
Did you know that stabbing Mr. Bacon with a knife would most certainly create a very high risk of death or grave bodily harm to Mr. Bacon?
Yes, I did.
After Mr. Bacon was dead, did you remove part of his body, specifically his testicles?
Yes, I did.
Did you move those testicles to the kitchen?
Yes, I did.
Did you do so without legal authorization, meaning you were not doing so to embalm Mr. Bacon's body or to do a proper post-mortem examination?
No, I didn't.
Your Honor, I believe that's sufficient factual basis for both counts.
Despite his defense team's belief that Lutunsky could have potentially obtained a not guilty verdict on the basis of insanity from the jury, Lutunsky emphasized his wish to plead guilty. Mark Latunsky was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole.